Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the posting of the colors. Okay, Micah Hurt, please come forward to give the invocation.
Father in heaven, we ask your protection. We thank you for your protection and your provision over our country and its freedoms. We thank you for the leadership role that you've given to our military around the world, and ask that you would just give wisdom to our leadership, to President Bush and to his administration, to the Congress, to the courts, and to those that lead our military. We just ask that you would bless and protect those who are defending our freedoms at home and abroad. We just ask that you would comfort and provide for those and the families of those who have been prisoners of war or killed in action. I ask that you would just thank you for the leadership and the sacrifice of those on this occasion. Especially thank you for the leadership and the sacrifice of those who have made ACE what it is today, made it possible. I just thank you for the opportunity that all of the ACE students have had this summer to learn all the things that we've been able to learn. And I thank you for keeping us safe through all the things that we've done over the summer, all the miles that we've covered. I thank you for Dr. Jabor's vision and leadership, and I just ask that you would just pour out your blessing on him and his family and protect them. And I ask that you would, and just thank you for his staff and for the officers who gave of their time, gave so much of their time to make this possible. And thank you for the food that we're about to eat. And I ask that you would just bless our conversation around the table and bless the proceedings this evening. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Thank you, everyone. Welcome again to the ACE graduation ceremony. At this time, I would like to recognize the distinguished guests with us this evening. First, the Deputy Director of Information Directorate, Air Force Research Laboratory, and Commander of Rome Research Site, Colonel Robert McHale. Also with us this evening is our guest speaker, Colonel Catherine Bacon. Next, from the office of Congressman Sherwood Bullard, representative of the 24th New York District, who was unable to attend this evening, we have Tim Clancy, the project director of the U.S. House Committee on Science. Our distinguished guests also include Colonel Fred Wieners, director of ACE Military Training, Colonel William Gray, U.S. Air Force retired, and Mrs. Gray. Colonel Lance Dickinson, Commander of Air Force ROTC, Detachment 538. Colonel Rich Smith, Commander of Air Force ROTC, Detachment 535. Captain Gabriel Mounts, Rome Research Site Squadron Section Commander, and Mrs. Mounts. Dr. Eric Spina, Dean of the College of Engineering of Syracuse University. And finally, our very own Dr. Kamal Jabor, ACE Director, and his wife, Dr. Marla Bates. Again, welcome to all our distinguished guests, and we are very pleased you could join us this evening. At this time, Cadet Simone Shin will now recognize those distinguished individuals who are unable to be with us this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the front of the room. You may have noticed the table set before you. It is filled with symbolism. I will explain. The table is set for our prisoners of war and those missing in action from all wars. They're not with us today. Their chairs are empty. Let us remember their absence. Let us remember the men and women prisoners of war from all branches of service that are too often forgotten. Let us remember them. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intent to respond to their country's call to arms, so that we could remain free. Remember. The lone candle symbolizes the frailty of a prisoner alone, trying to stand up against his oppressors. Remember. The black ribbon on the candle reminds us of those who will not be coming home. Remember. The single rose reminds us of the loved ones and families of our comrade in arms who keep the faith and wait their return. Remember. A slice of lemon is on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter fate if we do not bring them home. Remember. There's salt on the plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait and remember. The glasses are inverted. They cannot toast with us tonight. Maybe tomorrow, if we remember. As we look upon the empty table, do not remember ghosts from the past. Remember our comrades. Remember those whom we depend on in battle. They depend on us to bring them home. They will remember what we do. Please honor and remember them. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy your meal.
Deputy to the lab, I get to see what the technologies are. But I also get to be the commander for some of the officers that have worked with you, worked with your sons and daughters, and worked with the cadets, the folks from that have been sponsored out by the National Science Foundation. This is truly a joint program. We have the Army with us. Can I get a whoop? All right. A true joint program. And boy, this program has grown. And it's grown because of what Kamal Jabor has done, the vision of Congressman Bollert and his staff. We want to thank them. This is truly, I am jealous, folks. I am green with envy because when I went through ROTC, I had to go and get a job as a lifeguard for the summer. And I was okay lifeguard. I could do it. But I didn't have that opportunity that you've had to be able to dabble, shall we say, in the nation's future. And you're going to have a great keynote speaker here, and I'll leave those comments to her. But I truly am jealous because you've had such a great opportunity. Dr. Hansen, the director of the laboratory, is literally on safari. He has had a long planned vacation, and he said before he left, he said, Bob, you got it. I'll be back in about a month. And I said, sure, boss. I'll send everybody home. Because, you know, and guess what? Yesterday we have a power outage, and I got to send everybody home. He's not going to believe it. I didn't believe it either. But I hear it interrupted some of your presentations. So, oh well, huh, guys? Oh well. Okay. Well, the good news is, well, let's start with the bad news. The bad news is the drinking rules are still in effect until you return to your home. That's the bad news. The other little part of the bad news, unless you're driving a relatively short distance like to Rochester, you really can't leave tonight, you know. We don't want you traveling a very long distance and having something happen. Trust me, it's happened before, so let's take that safety step one more time tonight. Nobody's doing a long, long drive. Maybe Rochester, but even that I get a little concerned about at the late at night. So please be careful. Please check with Captain Mounts, your section commander, your one that I kind of delegated all this to. It's great to have Captain working for you. The good news is no more 8-mile run tomorrow morning. True? Or is it optional? It's optional. For Kamal, the way he runs things, I guess he's expecting you all to be there. So, well, again, congratulations. It truly is, and I mean this, it truly is special and a privilege to be the host of this fantastic course in cybersecurity. It is a tremendous course. Every time I get the briefing of it, and every time I talk to you and see the excitement in your eyes and what you're doing and tell me about what you've learned, even though I don't understand a word of it, it's truly fantastic. So congratulations, thanks for being here, and please have a safe trip home.
Thank you very much, Colonel McHale. At this time, please welcome Tim Clancy, the project manager of the House Science Committee, on behalf of Congressman Sherwood Bull.
Good evening. You know I don't have any prepared remarks, so I'm not going to sit up here and tell you 1,000 different stories, but I did want to say a couple of things. One, obviously, congratulations to the cadets and to your families, because you really are all tremendous individuals, and we're so blessed here in this area to have you come to Central New York and spend 8 fun-filled weeks. But I think that it would be remiss to say how much we enjoy having you here, and your presence is so tremendous for the community, for the lab, for the people who are participating. And I just want to say thank you to the folks who did the wonderful presentations, presenting the colors, the presentation of our the fallen and the POWs, and the wonderful national anthem. I'd like if everyone give them a nice round of applause. I don't think we did for such a solemn event, but it was really wonderful, and obviously took additional time to do that preparation. So thanks again. One of the things that is so important about this is the contributions of the mentors and the people who put in their own personal time to make this course happen. And so I just want to thank each and every one of you, some of whom are here and I've seen many times, but whether it's from Kamal and Bill and his people, but from the folks at the lab who spend a lot of time, additional time. They have their day jobs, they have their companies to run, and they give of their time to make this course what it is. And that's really the strength of this entire endeavor. It's a grassroots, community-based operation, and really without that, I don't think it would be the tremendous success it's already proven to be in a very, very short period of time. It's, as you know, it's not like folks sitting up there and giving it, one lecture after the other. It's really much more than that. And let me just say one other thing about what from the congressman. When we first discussed this with Kamal and with folks from Lab Rayers, who really also was tremendous in getting this whole thing together. One of the things that we asked folks that this would be the best, and it truly is. There's nothing more I can say about that other than, and it's the best because of you, the students. I couldn't ask for such a tremendous group of individuals from all over the country who come here to really immerse themselves in technology and the science, but even more than that, it's about leadership and service. And I was talking with Colonel Wieners earlier and talking about the things that he was doing, and also the staff trip to Gettysburg, and I'm sure that was a treat. I hope it was. I live in Washington, D.C., and I actually used to spend a fair amount of time in Gettysburg. I had some friends there, and never missed an opportunity to learn more about that amazing and terrible battle. But it's just such a fascinating look into leadership and the unexpected nature of battle and what it really takes. and I'm sure you learned when you were there that one of the reasons that they fought at Gettysburg was simply because they were flying blind. Robert Lee had no eyes and ears. His eyes and ears were gone as Jeb Stuart was out riding in his famous ride through Maryland, getting a lot of glory and leaving his commander in the dust while they were kind of moving up through Pennsylvania. So both armies ran into each other, literally. And so the Confederates, many of the Confederates actually came from the north when they had to break off sieging the city of York. So what that proves is that the command and control aspects that deal here in the lab and the situations that are faced in Gettysburg, a lot of them are the same fundamental issues that they were then. We're just using different tools. You have to have that kind of eyes and ears to be an effective force. And I think we're also talking at the table about a little bit about the war in Iraq and talking about the challenges there. And one of the things that was said is the front is everywhere, and it will be there. There is no front. Every place that you are, we're in conflict. And I think that even sitting at a terminal or a computer screen is the front. And the front page of the Washington Post this weekend talked about that, talked about the threat from Al-Qaeda and the internet and various aspects of information technology that terrorists use to communicate and to plan their operations. That is their back office. That's where they plan their operations. They don't have any physical space. So that really, for all of you, are on the front lines and will be on the front lines. And so we're really lucky that we have this course, but we have you as well to defend our country, defend our freedom. And I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clancy. Now, at this time, it is with my most esteemed pleasure that I introduce to you and welcome our guest speaker, Colonel Catherine Bacon. Colonel Catherine T. I got some reading. Colonel Catherine T. Bacon retired from the Air Force after more than 30 years of service. In her last assignment, she was reserve advisor to the commander of the Air Force Command and Control and Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Center, headquartered at Air Combat Command, Langley Air Force Base, Virginia. There she provided advice and policy recommendations as the center strove to improve the information flow in the Air Force by integrating command and control systems. Colonel Bacon, a third-generation military brat, entered the Air Force in May 1974 after graduating from Texas Tech University. Yeah, exactly. She was one of the first women cadets in the Air Force Reserve Officer Corps of Cadets, one of the first women to be selected for undergraduate navigator training. He was the instructor navigator aboard Strategic Air Command's first all-female flight, and was one of the Military Airlift Command's first female line squadron commanders. During Operation Allied Force, she deployed to the Vicenza Combined Air Operations Center, C-5 Division, in support of the Bosnia Air Campaign from April to June 1999. Her military decorations include the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, the Joint Service Commendation Medal, the Air Force Commendation Medal with oak leaf cluster, the Combat Readiness Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, and the Air Reserve Forces Medal with hourglass device. Her civilian resume is quite varied. Between active component unit and IMA reserve assignments, she taught academic English at various universities and junior colleges. She served with the Navigators, an international interdenominational Christian organization, for 6 years in Osaka, Japan, where she taught English and worked with Japanese lay ministries. Colonel Bacon currently resides in Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Colonel Catherine Bacon.
You did great. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try and get this thing set up. I usually have paper, but I didn't get a paper copy tonight, so I'm going to try and do this on my computer. And what a better job than to do it with you all, right? So nobody hack into this while I'm on my speech, okay? In front. Put your hands on the table, and nobody gets hurt. Anyway, thank you, Cadet Bassagalapi. I apologize for trying to say it right. But Blake and I, I would think that I would have attributed his being my introducer to Dr. Jamal Kabur's vast knowledge and superior insight, admirable personal qualities, incredible training abilities, fanaticism for running 8 miles at a time, and a passion for mentoring. I would have thought that that kind of quality base, he would have get introduced, perfect match, Blake. But Martin didn't really about my background. He didn't know that I went to Texas Tech University as well. All right. The greatest detachment. One of the greatest ones. In the United States of America. And that Blake and I would have so much in common. We both went to Tech. We both are colonels. And we both jumped out of perfectly good airplanes. So, when we started comparing the things that we were alike on, it was kind of fun. And not only jumped out of perfectly good airplanes, but we free fell out of perfectly good airplanes. I mean, we didn't stand up, shuffle up, hook up, and went out the door. It wasn't one of those arm punctures. But, we pulled our long D-rings, so free fall all the way. So thanks, Blake, for a good introduction. And since I can't attribute it to Dr. Kabur's insight, I'm going to attribute it to God, divinely appointed, and we'll be here together tonight. And I too, each of us has come up here and recognized distinguished visitors, and I had a long list that I thought I would dutifully go through. But let me, since we've already covered that, just say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished visitors, fellow colonels, family members, and cadets, and civil servants, and civilian students. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you. All right. Now you know what this is going to go like now. I also want to recognize our AFRL partners, the staff, and our industry partners back there. Thank you guys and gals for being here. And thank you, this whole group, for what you've done to make the ACE 2005 class what it is. Your contribution to this class is, it's just, you can't put a word to it on what it means to our nation and to the development of the next generation of cybersecurity leaders for our country. Well, I kind of mentioned, Dr. Kamal Jabur's personality and all of his qualities, and I was sort of joking, but seriously, I would like to take a moment to thank you, Dr. Jabur, for inviting me to participate with you all here this week. And not only that, I want to say that it's really an honor to be here with this group of uniquely qualified men. And in all seriousness, I want to go on record for saying that I believe you, sir, are an extremely knowledgeable, personable teacher, runner, and mentor. Dr. J, I admire and commend you. I thank you again for your invitation, and I thank you for what you've done on an individual level, and what you've done collectively to gather and to create a community of supporters and mentors and participants to benefit not only Rome, New York, and the Syracuse University and the Rome Lab, but to benefit these men and women. So, Dr. He's an engineer, he's a mentor, and he's an American patriot. And thank you. As Kamal told me, there's 85 other people that have been directly involved in promoting and supporting this program. I don't know if cadets and students, if you're aware of that. You probably were, because you kind of, he probably talks about it a little bit, right? But there's 85 men and women who've made it just a terrific contribution to make a difference. I want to go through their names. Regina Rocco, Captain Mounts, and the flight commanders, Captain Bartlett, Captain Brown, Captain Rendon, Captain Yoshimoto, and Cadet First Class Julia Palmer, and Ms. Cynthia Osa. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. These people have teamed up to plan, organize, and execute ACE 2005. We just, your names are going to be in glory if they're not in history. So thank you for just a great contribution you're making to this program. Now, all of the students know, and most of us who have had exposure to the program understand it, but let me briefly review it in case there are some in the audience who are not completely aware of the components of this program. First of all, it's a really young program. I think Tim mentioned that, at the table he did. He said, gee whiz, this thing has gone from 0 to 80, in like 3 years. 3 years ago, Dr. J got this great idea to design a program with the goal of developing cybersecurity leaders through education, through problem solving, through immersion in a work environment, and making them run around the park 8 miles every Friday morning. 2 years ago, 14 people signed up for that. And 1 year ago, 26 people signed up for it. And this year, 59 men and women were here for ACE 2005. I'm an English major, as Blake indicated to you guys and gals, and Tim said, well, what do you have in common with these people? He said, well, command and control. You need people who can talk it, you need people who can make it, and together we can do great things. But I'm an English major, and I took bonehead math only because I had to, and I barely passed it. But I can figure out that, 14, 26, 59, that's results. That's really remarkable. It's remarkable growth. And I think it's got a great future. And what I've always admired about this program, ever since I met Jamal and he started talking to me about it, I was here on a business trip with my boss, Major General Tommy Crawford. We came up to the lab, and he had all his staff, and they took us on a dog and pony show all through the lab. And we got to understand what was happening, the great work that was happening here. But ever since I met Jamal, and we found out almost instantly we were both mentoring fanatics. We're passionate about mentoring. And I've admired the program since then. But now that I've been here, with even the few days that I've been here, I'm even much more of a fan. And I'll continue to carry your flag and try and recruit, support, and students to come to future ACE programs. The thing that I admire is not just a work program. It's not just a class. It's not just one of those things. It's a combination of training, of practical work, of physical development, and of moral development. So you don't find that kind of combination very often. And you go to a class anyway, but you can't find a place like this that has that combination of elements that will really help the students to be stretched and to grow into better engineers, computer science majors, and or leaders. 14 graduates, 26 graduates, 59 graduates, remarkable growth. 85 committed supporters and mentors, remarkable participation. From high school students to graduate assistants, from industry partners to community members, from civil servants to commissioned and non-commissioned officers, you have got the entire spectrum of this community, and they're all involved, and they're all making a difference. And the result? 1 year of planning, 10 weeks of intense execution, and 59 cybersecurity leaders. Leaders in the making. That's a MasterCard moment. Priceless. Priceless. Truly, it's a priceless achievement. The combination of the efforts here have resulted in a program and an environment that continues to, like a good metabolism, it just gets better. You extraordinary young men and women, you can be immersed, challenged, stretched, developed, and I would say that you've been changed forever. You, cadets and students, class 2005, you're cyber warriors and you're leaders in the making. While the merits of the program and the importance of the lab, the contribution and support of Air Force ROTC making an official PDT, those are all great things. The support of the community Rome, Syracuse University. All of these are great and crucial, but I want to really laser in, if you'll just be patient with me. I'm an English major, so I'm not going to be just another few minutes, but I just want to talk to you and about you for a few minutes. You have become cybersecurity warriors. And you came here a student or a cadet student, but now you're a fledgling cybersecurity warrior. You've got skills now and abilities and competencies and the moral development to make you more than just a technician. Whether you're a cadet or a civilian, you've been trained and you have succeeded in earning your graduation certificates here tonight. And now you have the future and future challenges and decisions that lie ahead of you. And it's not just when am I going to get my first beer after. I'm serious. You've got tremendous challenges in front of you and tremendous decisions ahead of you. And I just want to ask you, and I'm going to ask you several times tonight, what will you do? You're no longer novice students, nor are you merely trained technicians. You are cyber security leaders in the making. Most of you will graduate in a year or two, and some of you will graduate in even less time than that. And you have that short time. It'll go by in a blink. You think it won't, but it'll go by in a blink. And you have that short time to use to further define, refine, and polish up your technical and leadership qualities that you've begun to develop here. You are our nation's emerging cybersecurity leaders. What will you do? Well, one thing you could probably do, and I've heard several of you say it, well, Dr. J, I'm going to keep on using that methodology. I guess it's okay, you have to do it all through this. So have your methodology. So if you formulate your problem, and I would say the problem is that cybersecurity leaders are essential for the national defense. And the second step, what is it? Okay, background and establish your reasonable assumptions. Well, there are not many of you. So number 3, apply proper techniques. So we want to develop and encourage cybersecurity leaders. And 4, create a sound solution. Promote collaboration amongst cybersecurity leaders to achieve cyber defense. 5, perform a risk analysis. What will happen if we don't? Our cyber defenses may or will be violated. So number 6, what is it? Deliver the solution on time. And what came to mind on this was Todd Beamer. Todd Beamer didn't have much time to make a decision. And the people that worked with him didn't have much time to make a decision. They couldn't think, oh, well, let's give it another 30, 40 minutes. Todd Beamer said, let's roll. And that's what I'd like to encourage you guys and gals to do. Todd Beamer was a leader. Leader. It's not just about academic acumen or technical competency. We got plenty of smart people and plenty of good technicians. You're smart, you're technically competent, you have physical stamina, you have moral fiber. What we need are leaders. We can hire technicians, but we have to make leaders. And you are a leader in the making. What will you do? Will you accept the mantle of leadership? Whether you're a civilian or a cadet, will you be a leader? And let me just say, don't confuse leader with being the big bad guy or gal. Don't confuse leadership with tyranny. Don't think it's being a tyrant. It doesn't work. You can be transactional and hold a gun to somebody's head and say, you better do this or else. And that might work for a little while, but when the gun goes away, it doesn't work anymore. You've got to be a leader. You have to be a transformational leader. How many of you are familiar with Band of Brothers? Seen the film, read the book? How many people? Okay, I'm a Band of Brothers fan. Right, you know about Sobel, right? Well, some people, you don't like. Okay, but just bear with me, right? How many of you know about Sobel? Who was he? Captain Sobel. He was the Easy Company commander when they were training. He wasn't a leader. He was a tyrant. Yeah, he had the best company. He trained them, he drove them, he humiliated them, He squashed them, or he tried to. He was a tyrant who drove his people for his glory and his benefit, not for their development or for even the good of Easy Company. Sobel was a tyrant. In his book, Good to Great, I don't know if any of you might have heard about it or read it, Jim Collins, Good to Great. It's about the difference between good companies and great companies. And do you know what the difference is? It's a reflection of their leaders. Good leaders or great leaders. Good leaders might be drivers, but great leaders, they found, were servant leaders. Servant leaders who develop their people and who do what they ask their people to do, or at least are willing to go there with them. Servant leaders are like Lieutenant Winters from Easy Company. Those of you who watched the film or read the book, you saw Winters took the heat. He was a platoon commander, and he took the butt of all of Sobel's mistreatment and had to take some unjustifiable punishments from him. But he took the heat. He ran with his guys. He ran with the guy who got punished. He later, in combat, he led the assault on the guns at Karatan. And even later in the war, he led the charge against the German infantry. He didn't send his guys first. He was out first. That was leadership. And you think, well, okay, he was a great combat leader, but he was a moral leader as well. And that's one thing you all need to think about. You may not be in direct hand-to-hand combat. Our Army brothers and sisters, maybe. And if we're doing transport duty, our guys and gals are too. But he was not just a combat leader, he was a moral leader. He confronted one of his platoon leaders for drunkenness. He encouraged him not to be a drunk. He said, do you have enough moral courage to encourage your classmates to not overdo drinking or overdo any kind of behavior that might be detrimental to them or might be illegal? Winters confronted another platoon leader for gambling with his men. It wasn't an illegal activity. All the guys were gambling. But Winters thought it was immoral for an officer to take advantage of an enlisted member. So he confronted him. What will you do? Will you be a leader? Will you be a cyber security leader? I'm going to talk briefly about cybersecurity, just to make it clear. If you haven't already put the dots together, I'm pretty sure you have. But let me just review it. It's essential for our country. Like Tim was saying, cybersecurity is what holds all of our civil and military fabric together anymore, because we do so many things in cyberspace. Finance, education, industry, commerce, all of these things rely upon information tools and methodologies. And all of these depend upon cybersecurity. This is true of our military sector as well. For our national defense, for our way of life, and for our national defense, cybersecurity is essential. 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure not too many people, I mean, you can tell me if you had, who had ever heard of cybersecurity 10 years ago? That tells you how young this discipline is. 10 years ago, you ACE graduates were maybe just about starting to think about college. If you're like me, you didn't think about it until your junior year, but you guys are smart, so you were probably thinking about it a lot earlier. When I was 8 or 9, I was running around the playground here at Chris's Park playing in my granddad's and grandmother's backyard on base housing, and I didn't think I was going to go to college. About the 4th grade, I started getting an idea. You guys might have been there sooner. You might have had a vision sooner. But 10 years ago, I know you didn't know you'd be a cybersecurity warrior, or that you'd be a pioneer of cybersecurity warrior. Did you think that you could make a contribution to our national defense? Have you thought about that? Have you thought that you can contribute to our capability to conduct network-centric military operations? To conduct network-centric warfare is required? Most of the Air Force didn't have this concept either. 10 years ago, for sure it did. You know, we were, and still in some ways are, platform-centric. Do you know what I mean by that? Platforms. A platform is an airplane, or a ship, or a tank. It's a thing that goes and does a job. Okay, so we were platform-centric. It's missiles. How many do we have? How many do they have? How fast are ours? How fast are theirs? What kind of weaponry? How much damage can we do if they didn't? That was our thinking during all of the Cold War, from post-World War II through the Cold War, which several of us here are Cold War warriors. That was our focus, platforms. But the platform concept, well, it was good. It won the Cold War. It was good then, but it's not good enough now. What we need to know now is that, what we have all learned is it doesn't matter if we have the biggest, baddest, bestest military and platforms in the world. All it takes is 19 hijackers on airplanes that run them into buildings or into the Pentagon to show us that our platforms will not protect us from an enemy that's going to use asymmetrical attacks and an enemy that's a non-state enemy that has no space, doesn't have a nation that we can look at, doesn't have a military that we can counter, doesn't have a diplomatic corps that we can talk to. This is a different kind of enemy, and it requires that we have a different strategy. It requires to fight entities like, and enemies like Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda, we have to have a different strategy. Platform strategy won't work. This enemy attacks asymmetrically. You guys know what that means, the definition. But in military affairs, it means, Lee had the attack coming on Peter's charge. They could see where it was coming. It wasn't asymmetric. It was direct. Our enemy today attacks using trucks to kill Marines sleeping in barracks in Lebanon. They use vehicles to set off bombs to kill civilians in Nairobi and Mombasa. They use a pontoon boat to cripple a destroyer. Improvise explosive devices to kill our men and women in assault vehicles or in trucks or in convoy delivery vehicles. Or they use cell phones to detonate explosive-laden backpacks on trains in Madrid or on the tube or double-decker buses in London or in New York or in Oklahoma. There is, as Tim said, there's no front. The front is everywhere right now because our enemy is an asymmetric, non-state enemy, and all of us will be needed to fight this fight. 10 years ago, we developed our efforts to compiling platforms. More fighters, better bombers, larger air refuelers, bigger cargo aircraft. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to just go off of the warfighter bench for just a minute and say, yeah, your military is into cargo and cargo aircraft, which are humanitarian delivery platforms, as well as munition delivery platforms. It's not just about blowing up things. Your military is involved every day in humanitarian operations around the world. Allies and not so allies are the beneficiaries of American military, humanitarian, and peacekeeping and nation-building operations. Your airmen, our airmen, risked their lives to airdrop humanitarian aid in Afghanistan in the early days of Operation Enduring Freedom. Your sailors and your airmen provided speedy assistance and desperately needed supplies in the aftermath of the Indian Ocean tsunami. And they just recently airlifted equipment and personnel in support of Russian Soviet mini-sub rescue. Now the Brits did the rescue and good on them, but we sent people too. We sent resources as well. It's your soldiers and your Marines who are patrolling the villages of Afghanistan and Iraq, who are providing security, medical assistance, civil affairs assistance, training bankers, lawyers, voting officials, and civil police to do their jobs in an emerging democratic environment. It's America's military men and women who collect food and supplies and visit schools and support orphanages in Afghanistan and Iraq, just as they always have, because American sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guards men and women are warriors, but they are American warriors who, though not all perfect, as we know from the tragic exceptions of My Lai and Abu Ghraib, they are nevertheless American military and are characteristically known for their compassion and generosity. And ACE, by the way, wasn't a technical failure. in those tragic exceptions. It was a leadership failure. That's why we need leaders, not just technicians. Let me get back to our platform focus. Platforms dominated our thinking, our strategies, budgets, methodologies, and the best guys and gals, mostly guys, okay, who could drive the best platforms became our leaders. They were the best at sailing ships, at flying airplanes, or driving tanks, or whatever other platform they were combating with. In the future, I'm convinced, it's already changing now, our leaders will be network-centric warriors, not platform operators. So ACE 2005, what does it mean to you? Today, we're evolving into a network-centric military that will execute network-centric operations. You won't see it overnight, but it's changing already. I mean, think about the Army. They bought their first airplanes in the early 1900s, but they didn't get rid of their horses until the 30s. Okay, a little slow on the uptake there. Well, you know, the Air Force got its faux pas too. Each service has its blind sides, but we're evolving, we're merging, we're changing from platform to network-centric. And it may seem slow, but change is happening. In fact, in some ways, change is happening faster. We're moving faster and faster towards real network centricity. When, as Blake said, I was at the CAO, the Combined Air Operations Center in Vicenza. And it's funny, you know, to think about an air operations center and what it used to look like and what it looked like in the 90s and what it looks like now. I've seen the pictures of what it looked like in World War II and in Vietnam. I was at one in the 90s, and I have seen the pictures and I've seen the guts of an AOC now, and it's very, very different. At Vicenza, we were beginning to use network-centric tools and methodologies. We had computers, after all, which was a big step forward. We had Excel, we had PowerPoint, we had email, so we could actually pound out the air tasking order and ship it by email to all the Air Force units. Oh, but by the way, because we weren't quite network-centric, we had to print the paper copy and fly it on an airplane to the aircraft carriers because their machines then talk to our machines. Okay, well, but at least we began to see some of the problems and that we needed to make some changes. We could project maps on big screens that looked pretty cool, you know, but it was, what I used to say was, when is it going to go beyond PowerPoint? When is it more than a PowerPoint slideshow? When are we going to have real data interface? When are we going to quit painting little pictures and actually have the information depicted? That's network centricity. We could project all that stuff for the JFAC, the Joint Forces Air Component Commander, the Air Boss. We could put it up there for him to look at, for his staff to review. But we had only begun to electronify the techniques, and that the same techniques that you see in the pictures in World War II, you know, the British ops room where you see all those guys with the lawn sticks, pushing the little ships around. Oh, shoot, all we were doing was doing the same thing on PowerPoint slides. Okay? So we were electronifying, but we were beginning to get the concept that we were going to net-centric and become data fusion, automatic data update. We started to see a vision. During Operation Allied Force, we became increasingly aware of the potential for our information-age tools and methodologies, not just to monitor, but to actually integrate the decision cycle. You know, the ATO used to be a 72-hour beast, the air tasking order. The guys, all the map planners would go into one section of, you had a big room, and 800 people. We almost had one person for every flight. Okay, 800 people, and 70 of them would be over there talking about targets, and then 70 would be over there, and they'd be going, okay, well, if we got these targets, well, here's the airplanes, and 60 of them would be over there, and finally they'd go through all these places, and then at the end, they'd hand this stuff to the guys who had to type it and get it done before the end of the day to get it into the 72-hour cycle. Well, now, with information sharing and with network centricity, that some of that information is starting to flow real time and in parallel. So you don't have to wait until the end of the workday to get your product, to get your work done. So, and also, more importantly, not to just help the workflow. Actually, now we can intercept a flight and we can redirect it. We couldn't do that before. 72 It didn't matter if the target came up, the airplane, maybe he saw it or maybe he didn't see it. He couldn't change because he couldn't get the comm from the air boss to say change, because the air boss didn't have the picture, because the guys on the ground had a different kind of radio from the guys in this place. And it was just, he flew it the way it was. But now we're starting to try and intersect that decision loop. And because we have real-time information and we have information sharing, we can actually redirect. They're already retasking right now. General Jumper and General, who was the Communist Safety at the time, and Lieutenant General Short, who was the JPEC, the air boss, they began to think about pushing our air capabilities towards accelerating the kill chain. You guys ever heard that one? It's still pretty popular because General Jumper is still pretty much, in our memories. Find, fix, track, target, execute, and assess. He didn't want it to take 72 hours. He didn't want it to take 10 hours. He didn't want it to take 2 hours. He kept telling us 10 minutes. Because that's about all the time you have on an emerging target. If you can't get it in 10 minutes, it's gone. And then you got to try and find it all over again. 10 minutes. He wanted to be able to get the information, modify the plan, find the proper asset, retask it, and swipe a target in less than 10 minutes. Okay. Mid-flight. That was unheard of 10 years ago, but we're doing it now in the information age. The information age is here. It's already increasing, it's already influencing, and will increasingly influence military operations in the domain of warfare. Ace, what will you do? You all went to Gettysburg. I was just amazed when Tim started talking about it, because he asked the same question that I'm going to ask. What does it have to do with us now? You went to Gettysburg, and you walked over the ground where 140 years ago, Americans raised arms against Americans, where Lee's 43,000 troops pitched battle against Meade's 46,000 troops. And they used 17th century tactics and 19th century network-centric capabilities to just pitch their armies against one another. And the result was, because they had no eyes, because they didn't know their weaponry wasn't working, because they didn't know what the other guys were, because they didn't know how badly they were beaten. They had no eyes, no way to know. They were sort of guessing. Because of that rudimentary network-centric capabilities that they had, their battle contributed to the carnage of 51,000 Americans, more casualties in the American history than any until Vietnam. It was the bloodiest days in American history. Lee's platform was a 17th century tactic of massing your infantry. Because why did they march all together? Why did he not let them root step? Why did they not take the fences out beforehand? Well, because they'd always done it that way. Because they had learned how to march together, because at one point their weapons were so bad they had to be together in order to get enough firepower on the target. Even though their weaponry improved, they still were using the old platform of massing their infantry. And Lee, having won the first couple of days, or kind of won the first couple of days, thought, we just do it one more time and we'll beat them. He thought if Longstreet's divisions were angled up towards the copse, that his soldiers would win the day and defeat the Union infantry. Though he had used his artillery, we didn't know that it was way over. It wasn't doing anything to the Union lines. And the Union quit firing, and so he thought, we put them out. Well, the Union started firing as soon as Pickett started his charge. The 12-pounder Napoleon cannon, effective at 3 miles. Do you remember how far it is from where the forces were massed and where the copse is? What's the distance? 1 mile. Okay, it's effective at 3 miles with shell and shot. Okay, they get over the first fence, they get over the second fence, and the guys that are surviving, still going. Now they start using canister. That is like a BB gun. 300 yards. Well, 2 out of 3 of Pickett's men. He had 9 brigades. 2 out of 3 were killed. Too few survived the assault to reach the high water mark and the entrenched Union forces. Lee's army was broken. But was Lee the only one who made a mistake? No. Meade. Man, he should have just gone after those guys. He could have ended the war 2 years earlier. And many, many lives would have been saved. We would have quite a different celebration of Independence Day, because it would have been on the 4th. He should have attacked. He failed to deliver the solution on time. By the time he figured it out, Lee had escaped. In fact, here I got to put in my little pitch, okay? The only guy who did attack, my personal favorite, Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, professor of rhetoric, English major. Let's hear it for the English guys, okay? Professor of rhetoric. Just goes to show you, you don't have to necessarily have all of the background in order to use the talents that you have for the good. In his case, for the good of our country. Yeah, he was the only English major I bet on the field, and he wasn't even a regular Army guy. He was a reservist from Maine. He was a colonel, but he was a good thinker. He formulated a clear problem statement. We got to hold the line. Those were his orders. He established the assumptions. Well, they're going to come from right over here. Right? He applied the proper techniques. They dug in as fast as they could, and they began to fire as soon as the rebels attacked. And when confronted with the next aspect of the problem, which was, what? No ammunition. We're running out of ammo, boss. Ruh-roh. What are we going to do, team? He didn't. And then that didn't cross his mind. I'm confident. I read his memoirs, and the man is amazing. He said, okay, we got to hold the line. That was one of my words. So he calls his officers together, tells them what he's going to do. He remembers this thing he read sometime, while they're drilling and just waiting for a battle to start, and a couple of years before this battle. He goes, oh yeah, I remember reading about this thing. We'll do a wheel. So we'll extend these guys around here, and then, okay, on the mark, you guys wheel around this way and hit them from the side, and we'll come in on the front. And all of his troops, which have learned to believe in him and follow him, even though this sounds kind of crazy, fixed bayonets, charge. What happened? Even though Hood's men had more ammo, and there were more of them, they were astonished and they surrendered. And Chamberlain's men saved the southern flank and saved the only angle of attack that could have been successful by coming up and destroying the Union Army. So, okay, what do Lee, Meade, Chamberlain, what do they have to do with us today? Just like Mr. Clancy said, what do they have to do with us today? Well, they were warrior leaders. They had very little network-centric capabilities, but even the ones that they did have, they didn't use very well. Duh. You say no network-centric capability? Duh, yeah, it was the 19th century. Yeah, no email, no text messaging, no chat rooms, no cell phones. But they had the telegraph, but they didn't use it in battle. Their network-centric tools were flags, bugles, binoculars, riders, and runners, who carried the messages and orders in an attempt to synchronize the battle. Those were their elements, and of course they were elementary. But today, in the information age, it's not about infantry, it's not about platforms, it's about the network. David Alberts, from the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Networks and Information Integration, participated in a panel earlier this year in Washington, D.C., and he cited a prediction that today, our greatest source of combat power is the network. Today we have the technical elements to make our military forces not just electronic, but net-centric, and to give them the capabilities to conduct net-centric warfare. Net-centric warfare, he says, has four tenets, and they can be depicted as chains, four links in a chain and a value chain. The force must be robustly networked, leading to increased information sharing. If everything talks to everything, we all have the same information almost real time or very near real time, we have better information sharing. Increased information sharing promotes collaboration and improves shared awareness. Increased collaboration and shared awareness enables self-synchronization. If Jubal would have known, or if somebody else would have known to come around and help him, but they didn't know, so they couldn't synchronize, so they had very poor effectiveness and capability. We, on the other hand, because of these three links, have great mission effectiveness and capability. I tell you, Ace, net-centric warfare is here. What is that to you? Cyber security is essential. You know by now, I've said it several times, it's not just about platforms, but it is also not just about the network either. It's about leadership. You must be technically capable, but you must have character of a leader. You are accomplished cyber warriors. You have achieved mastery of cybersecurity techniques. You're better than some of the big guys. And you know that. You took their network then. You're good. Right? You've also learned practical aspects of being a good worker and a good follower because you were in a work environment and you took orders even the ones you didn't like. You submitted yourself to discipline. General Charles Link in an article, this is a good one, I'm trying to remember it, Aerospace Power Journal, 2000, Leadership, the whole journal, the whole volumes about leadership. And General Link says that every airman is a follower, because you have to be a follower to be a leader. And he says most are leaders. You guys and gals, you have the capacity to become a better leader because you have become a disciplined follower. You've chosen to submit yourself to this program, and I have no doubt that you will have the capacity to be a better leader in your academic department, in your ROTC detachment, and in your home communities. Ace, what will you do? In that panel discussion I described just a moment ago, Mr. Alberts also wondered, he pondered the pathway of network-centric warfare. He wondered what it would come out to be, and he couldn't answer. What I want to ask you is, have you pondered the pathway of leadership? Have you thought about the way you will turn out to be? And think about this perfect time, almost 100 years ago, in July 1912, Captain Chandler and Lieutenant Milling and Lieutenant Arnold received the first aviation certificates. Tonight, you're going to receive your certificates. You, it's not too much to say. You're the Chandlers, the Millings, and the Arnolds of tomorrow's Air Force. They were among the first to fly, and not just fly, but to lead men and women to defend our nation and to ensure our liberty and the liberty of much of the world. You, cyber warriors, will you not only work keyboards, but also influence lives? Will you not only establish networks, write applications, and create patches? Will you also serve your country, defend the world? Will you accept the mantle of leadership? Freedom's not free. I didn't make that up. That's on the War Memorial, the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Freedom is not free. Freedom must be defended. Things aren't as they seem. It appears sometimes that everything's okay. It did appear that everything was okay on the 10th of September, 2001. But on the 11th, all of America realized that we were at war. And that many Americans realized they had a vital role to play. Ace, what will you do? In the book that I've just finished reading not long ago, I'm going to get it out just so I can show it to you. It's called Mentoring Millennials, Shaping the Next Generation. Dr. Daniel Engler, he says, he cites Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who spoke to the young men and women of the 7 December 1941 generation, and he said, to some generations, much is given. Of other generations, much is expected. To the young men and women of 12-741, he said, this generation has a rendezvous with destiny. Engler believes, and I do too, that this generation, the 911 generation, you have a rendezvous with destiny too. And I'm confident that you all will be amongst the leaders of that rendezvous. It gives me goosebumps to think about it. It's deep, but I really want that to be engraved on your hearts. You have a rendezvous and you will be its leaders. You might think like Frodo, if you're a Tolkien fan. You might think, oh wait, I don't want to be a ring bearer. I don't want to do it. It's too hard. The fact is that you are. Like he was, you have the responsibility to carry the ring as far as you can. You may not have thought seriously or very seriously about serving, or about how long you would serve, or in what capacity, whether civilian or military. You may not have thought much about it, but I tell you, you have a vital role to play, to serve and to lead. You have a choice. Many decisions ahead of you now. You can kick back, go on autopilot, or cruise control. You can finish school, graduate, get a commission, get your job, and take it easy. You can float along like a sleepwalker, there, but not really there. Or you can choose to be engaged, as John Eldridge suggests in his book, Awake from the Dead. I love it. Awake from the dead. You can be awake and alive, or you can be alive but dead. Do you see what I mean? There's a difference. It's engagement. Just getting along or getting in. And as Theodore Roosevelt said, and I got this quote the other day when I was with Cadet Palmer, I said, oh, this is great, I don't know how to use this one. Roosevelt said, you can live in the gray light that knows neither victory or defeat, or you can dare mighty things. And he said, but it is far and away the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. We can all work, but can we work at work that's worth doing? Lots of us who've worked a few years can tell you we had jobs that weren't worth it. You, ladies and gentlemen, you have a work that's worth doing. You've worked hard, and you've been given much from the entire ACE team, who has taught you, provided for you, and mentored you to become more capable workers and more effective leaders. What will you do? Will you be a mentor also? Will you take some of the things you've been exposed to and the ideas that you've internalized, will you put them to work in your life now? Will you mentor others? Will you lead others? I'm serious, will you lead others? If you'd like to do that, if you want to do that or if you'd like to do that, would you just stand up right now? How many of you will lead? All right. I'm going to repeat 3 ideas to you that I've already mentioned, but I'm going to say them more slowly and in isolation so you can hear it clearly. We talked about the difference between the 10th of September and the 11th of September. From Eldridge's book, there's 3 ideas. And I'd like you to say it after me. Things are not as they seem. Things are not as they seem. There is a war going on. I have a vital role to play.
I have a vital role to play.
Say that one more time.
I have a vital role to play.
Thank you. Mentors, supporters, will you stand with this group of our future leaders? Families, this is all of us. It's a community that's supporting them. They have a choice. Get by or get with it. Be technical workers or be cybersecurity leaders. Workers or leaders. What will you do? Ace, what will you do? Remember, you have a vital role to play. Congratulations, ACE 2005. You've not only completed the program, you have entered the realm of leaders. You have the incredible privilege, truly incredible, once in a lifetime, maybe once in an age, to be pioneers.
Thank you very much, Colonel Davey. On behalf of my classmates and everyone here, I would like to once again thank you again for speaking with us tonight. Now I would like to invite Dr. Kamal Jamor to come forward and present the ACE class of 2005.
Hello. The first 4 miles of the Boilermaker road race went like clockwork. Month of training in sleet and snow, heat and humidity bore fruit. My DO and I jockeyed past hordes of weekend warriors and settled into our target pace. We enjoyed the atmosphere and sought the celebration. Suddenly, a sharp pain in the neck upset my plan for a sub 80-minute 15K. I bid my partner Godspeed and sought relief at a slower pace. The pain grew sharper with every step. I drifted to the side of the road and tried to disappear into the crowds. A familiar voice jolted me out of my daze. Dr. J, are you okay? Drew Terry, a.k.a. Dr. Marla Bennett for a day, caught me in a moment of self-pity. My neck hurts a lot, I pleaded. I ran several steps with Drew, then took leave of him. Remember, no excuses, he shouted. I was not amused. By the skill of my student to throw back at me my own teachings. A few weeks earlier, 56 Rotarians traveled from 28 states to Rome to form the ACE class of 2005. Full of excuses, they survived collisions with moose and geese, aircraft malfunction and emergency landing, lost luggage and missed exits, yet arrived on time for our first night together. We gave thanks and broke bread. We put faces to names and met roommates. We dispensed and received instructions. We remembered 9/11, and we settled into a wide journey through cyberspace. Tonight, our journey comes to an end. Through lectures and problems, solutions and reports, long briefings and long runs, you morphed from cyber nerds into future leaders. You demonstrated your zeal to defend the nation and your worthiness of our trust. Your miraculous transformation did not happen by chance, but rather through the vision and dedication of countless teachers, seasoned with your sweat, blood, and sleepless nights. I take this opportunity to thank, in particular, the Eagles who guided the ACE to official Air Force recognition. Colonels Bob McHale, Rich Smith, Fred Wieners, and Kath Bacon, and Congressman Sherwood Bollard, whose continuing support enabled the expansion of the ACE into a national program. I also extend my gratitude to the 85 individuals who had direct contact with each and every one of you who contributed to a successful boot camp. I will refrain from naming everybody, but I want to include my DO, XO, PTO, CTAs, I love acronyms, the ACE faculty and mentors, the staff of Rome Labs, Syracuse University and ITT Industries, the commanders and officers at Air Force RDC headquarters, and the home college detachments, the Rome Baseball Association and the beaches, the people of Rome who made our stay a pleasant one, and the Rome Fire Department for accruing frequent traveler miles to Building 448, while the cooking skills of our students lagged behind their hacking skills. Most important, I thank the men and women of the 2005 ACE who made my summer a memorable one. 71 days ago, uncertainty characterized the start of your journey. Methodically, you attended classes and solved problems. You wrote 588 reports and overcame power outages and toner cartridges to submit every single one of them on time. You abandoned apostrophes and semicolons and traded in your passive voices. You learned to write correct English, my way. You grew to enjoy our 8-mile runs together on Friday morning, and even more so Anthony's breakfast afterwards. And yes, we have an 8-mile run tomorrow at 8 a.m. and everybody is welcome. On that Sunday morning in Utica, Drew reminded me that failure was not an option. I summoned pride over pain and shuffled my way to the finish line. I finished the race behind Drew and fellow ACE students. The symbolism of the student bettering his teacher gave me faith in the promise of the class of 2005. So, without further emotion, I asked the class of 2005 to rise. indeed proud to certify that you have completed the requirements of the Advanced Course in Engineering Cybersecurity Bootcamp. You have demonstrated an ability to formulate clear problem statements, to make reasonable assumptions, to apply sound techniques and tools, to solve each problem to a certain depth, to perform risk analysis, and deliver your solutions on time. In witness thereof, we award each of you a certificate. At this time, I will ask the teams to come forward to receive the certificates. I invite Colonel McHale and Dean Spina to join me in congratulating the graduates. Team Alpha, David Caraway, Kurt Holzman, Kurt Holzman, Christopher Stover, Brandon Chavez, David Jones, Jason Smith, Patrick Norton, Derek Phillips, Carl Sinelnik, Blake Basigalopi, Micah Hurt, Kathleen Smith, Kyle Foster, Justin Blenoff, Evan McCoy, Jonathan Ketchum, Thomas Kinnear, Thomas Vestal, Robert Bond, Alex Grunther, Mike Vernon, Ashley Burns, Robert Bond, Robert Larkin, Brian Vandenhuber, Nicholas Easter, Janae Johnson, Melanie Shaw, Drew Terry, Ron Allen, Kevin Feeney, Darren Nunk, Chris Kolodacek, Tyler Pinkert, Benjamin Roboy, Matthew Iberzur, Brian Kropa, Tim Locke, Ryan Justice. John Russell. Matthew Zayats. Sean Hendricks. Sonny Roberts. Steve Weddle. Dan Colville. Shimon Shen. Thomas Taylor. Ryan Besh. Corey French. And Bill Meehan. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the class of 2005.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jabor. On behalf of ACE Class 2005, thank you for all your hard work and dedication that you put into running this program. If Cadet Evan McCauley could please come forward to express a token for our class's appreciation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Thank you very much. Now, before I get started here, hasn't our fantastic Master of Ceremonies, hasn't he done a wonderful job this evening, Mr. Blake Massagalico? Give it up. Give it up. You're almost done, brother. You don't even have your jug of water on hand, but you're doing all right. You're doing all right. Now, I assure you all tonight that I am no master of rhetoric, as the wonderful colonel who preceded me is. However, I do assure you that I am a master of keeping it simple. So I promise all of you tonight that stupid up here is going to keep it simple for all of you and not confuse you too much. So let me go ahead and press on. We, the ACE students, have been richly blessed this summer by one man's dream realized by the hard work of many individuals. Including ourselves, we've had our share in that hard work this summer. However, as a special token of our appreciation for that hard work that was done, we would like to present ACE 2005 class gifts to those who did this work for us and with us. I would like to invite Dr. Kamal Jabor, Colonel Fred Wieners, Ms. Regina Rego, and Julia Palmer to the podium this evening. Yes, please smile for the camera. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication to all of us this summer. It's truly been our pleasure to work with you over the course of the ACE 2005. Please accept and enjoy these gifts as a token of our appreciation. And before the applause gets out of control, one more gift to Dr. Jabor. We've put together a portrait of the entire ACE class in front of the B-52 that we would like to present to him. Get it right side up. All right. Please take and enjoy. So now, to all these wonderful staff members on my left, and to all the individuals who assisted them throughout the course of ACE 2005, a warm round of applause and thanks to all of you.
Thanks again. At this time, the class of 2005 would like to present a slideshow. At this time, the class of 2005 would like to present a slideshow. I'm sorry. Never mind.
I just had one more thing before we get into the slideshow real quick. And since I have the floor real quick, I wanted to have my 4 flight commanders, 3 of them are here. Captain Oshimoto, Captain Bartlett, and Captain Brown. Just to thank them for the help with the program. I'd also like to have Regina Rico stand up. I guess most of you know that she acted as the Director of Operations, but I don't think many of you realize how much she put into this program. So let's give these individuals a round of applause. And I have just one more small gift. Does anybody recognize this? Apparently, one of our cadets is very ingenious and has, I guess, continued a tradition that was started here at the ACE program, and that's breaking stuff. And in particular, this individual originally, I think, he broke the network at Rome Lab, is that correct? And so we wanted to give him this award as the Destructicon. This used to be a driver, and Derek Phillip was so nice as to destroy it. So if Derek could come up and receive his party gift.
Thank you very much. That presentation was prepared by our very own Alex the Tower Grunther. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Jabbour to come up one last time to announce the valedictorian and distinguished graduates of the ACE 2005 class.
The ACE awards the designation of distinguished graduate to the top 10% of the graduating class, as measured by their academic, leadership, and athletic accomplishments. This year, the honor goes to, and please stand, Carl Sickendick, Melanie Shaw, Sonia Roberts, Dan Phillips, and Patrick Nordor. Congratulations. Contrary to other schools' practices, the students in the ACE get to select their own valedictorian, who delivers their farewell remarks on behalf of the class and dismisses the class. It is merely a coincidence that this year's valedictorian is again an electrical engineer and one of our distinguished graduates. I invite Carl Sickendick to deliver the valedictorian.
Before I begin, I'd like to invite Colonel Bacon back. And as a token of our appreciation for coming to talk to us tonight, we'd like to thank you for coming to speak to us tonight. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to speak to you this evening as the Advanced Course in Engineering 2005 valedictorian. When Dr. Jabbour asked me to give the valedictory, I immediately accepted. Then I realized I had no idea what to say. I asked people for opinions of what I should say, and a couple of people suggested I give the entire speech in the ACE writing guide format. That's not really my style. So in the end, I decided to just wing it and say whatever came to mind. I'm only faking looking at these friends. When we arrived here, most of us had no idea what to expect. Some of us thought it would be a field training-like environment where we wake up at 04:30 and do some sit-ups with our laptops. Some of us expected there to be more than one kitchen. But none of us thought we would write as much as we did. For those of you who don't know, every week each ACE student handed in a technical paper that discussed a solution to a problem. The problems were assigned 1 week prior during our class period. Dr. J, as we ACE students know him, required all papers to be handed in before 8 a.m. on the following class period. His policy was no excuses, no extensions, and no exceptions. All of our papers had to adhere to the ACE writing guide. It was essentially a style and grammar guide to technical writing. The writing guide helped us learn to create technical documents with ease. It's a very strict format to get us writing at an advanced level in a short period of time. To that end, it has achieved its goal. I'm proud to say that now we all write sentences that are easier to read than when we began the program. I don't know if any of my sentences reflect that fact, but I'll try. In addition, it has helped us practice writing according to someone else's style guide, which is something I'm sure we'll all have to do someday. Class was our first priority as ACE students. I think I speak for almost everyone when I say Colonel Ragsdale and Lieutenant Colonel Dodge's presentation was the most entertaining. For most of us, their lecture gave us our first exposure to hacking tools. I doubt anyone fell asleep that week, and the information they gave us helped greatly throughout the Hackfest. And then there were the Hackfests. capstone event, the final Hackfest, we unleashed our destructive capabilities upon a small computer network. Within a few hours of the word go, we had partially destroyed several computers, including one used by the Hackfest officials. Symantec Corporation supplied a computer that ran state-of-the-art network defense software. Their intention was that the students assigned to computer defense would use that software to defend their networks. Unfortunately for the officials, they didn't properly defend their own computer. They left a gaping hole into their computer when they forgot to update Windows. Or possibly they did it on purpose. One student, and I'm not going to mention Patrick's name, found the record and deleted all the files on Symantec's computer. In addition to class, many of us were lucky enough to go on several weekend trips. Our first was to Gettysburg. We were fortunate enough to have the very knowledgeable Colonel Wieners as our guide. And let me tell you, Colonel Wieners knows Gettysburg. We were treated to detailed descriptions of events that occurred on the battlefield. It was the most interesting historical tour I've ever been on, and it lasted for 3 days. During that time, our extraordinarily competent bus driver chauffeured us around tight corners and up steep inclines. He made up other tour groups eat our dust, literally. More recently, we also had the pleasure of visiting both West Point and New York City. I'll never forget the Air Force Wall in the basement of the West Point Dining Center. It's truly a monument to air power. The visit to New York City was unforgettable as well. As someone who had never been there before, it reminded me of why I was proud to be an American. It's such a hodgepodge of people and stuff, and I don't think you'd find anywhere else like it in the world. There are many sights and sounds unique to ACE that I'll miss when we leave. Of course, there was the 6-mile marker on the 8-mile runs. At that point, we had just finished the Hill of Death, and the rest was cake. I'll also miss all the pizza and wings we've ingested over the last couple of weeks. With our miscellaneous events, we've certainly eaten our share. I'm sure everyone will miss Rob's Ozzy Osbourne wake-up call as well. Then there was Roman Runner Tuesdays, swimming pool Wednesdays, and Chinese buffet Thursdays. These are 3 fun events packed back to back. If the rest of the week was horrible, I knew I could count on Chinese buffet to pull me through. Then the power died 4 times. You might wonder what a bunch of computer geeks do when their power goes out. Well, let me tell you, that's when the fun began. After all, it was really the only time Paul got away from Warcraft. Then there was Jimmy Ha-Ha's, or should I say Nicky Doodles. I think they'll be opening up new locations soon because of all the ice cream we've offered. Before I finish up, I'd like to thank Colonel McHale, Colonel Bacon, and all of our other distinguished guests for attending our graduation. I'd also like to thank all the instructors, mentors, ACE staff, and everyone else who made ACE possible this year, especially Dr. Jabor and It was truly a great opportunity for all of us, and personally, I'm proud to have been part of such a great program. Also, though we may vary greatly in age, I believe all of us students at ACE are peers now, and I'm proud to be counted among you. Finally, it's my pleasure to dismiss everyone. Thank you all for attending our graduation ceremony, and please have a wonderful evening.